All right, I think we're good. So, thank you everyone for joining today on our webinar Wednesday series. Today, we're going to be talking about Creo Illustrate and how that can utilize and leverage your technical illustrations in your work instruction documents. So, let's get started. Before I go any further, just want to point this out. There is a questions tab you guys should be able to see while I'm doing the webinar. You can go ahead and ask any questions if you see something that you have a question about or thought about, but I won't address it until the end. But feel free to ask anyway, and I'll get to it at the end of the presentation. So our agenda today, just going to start with some introductions here, and then about myself, about our company, and then I'm going to go about the Creo Illustrate overview and what we're going to touch on today in today's demo. The majority of the time we'll be giving a live demo of Creo Illustrate based on the overview. And at the end, I will take any questions. So just a brief look at PDS. Headquarters is in Stockholm, but we operate in 12 countries. And we are one of PTC's top partners with the platinum status worldwide, and we're also a growing partner of ANSYS. In addition to that, I'd like to point out that we have over 4,000 customers, and there are over 440 employees, as you can see at the bottom there. And then this last bullet point where it says My PDS, it's basically something new for us that's becoming available quickly to customers. So be sure to get that on our website and our YouTube page. So PTC and ANSYS are PDS's biggest partners, and then at the bottom, we're just to name a few other of them. We have PDS. We pride ourselves in our experience and the people we have here, and with all the experience we have on our team, there's over 300 technical specialists globally. We're talking so. Whether it's CAD, PLM, IoT, you name it, we'll be able to handle your needs. We have a passion and professional at the same time, and I believe those two make for a very engaging and successful partnership. So, and just a little bit about myself. My name is Keith Morris. I am one of our CAD AE specialists with PDSVISION. Just a few things I want to point out on my specialties. 3D design and printing for over 10 years have been my biggest areas of manufacturing and engineering spaces. I actually used to be a field engineer for Stratasys and got my hands and elbows dirty working on printers and different shop floors and labs. And among that, I got to learn a lot about the additive manufacturing process. I've been with PDS for 2 years, and so now I'm learning I've learned a lot of the engineering when it comes to CAD. So now my specialty areas are in surfacing design when it comes to Creo, and then also in technical illustrations. And I've also been able to help a little bit with our marketing department in product videos, and as well as rendering and animation for customer facing material. All right, so now that we got those logistics out of the way, I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're going to be seeing today in our presentation in the demo. So there's obviously a lot more in between these lines that you can do with Creo Illustrate, but these are the big features, the big functionalities that Creo Illustrate offers. And from based on what I've seen in many companies and several users I've helped along the way, these are huge focus areas of Creo Illustrate. So I just wanted to basically show some of this off today. And with that, I will get into the demo here. So first thing I want to point out is I have a somewhat completed scene here set up in Creo Illustrate, and I will start one from scratch here shortly, but I just kind of want to touch on what all this is set up for and basically what it produced. Because at the end of the day, we're using Creo Illustrate to produce high quality illustrations for your work instruction documents. With that said, for those that aren't aware, who are sort of new to technical illustrations in this software, is that Creo Illustrate does not produce the entire PDF. So this is strictly for your illustrations. What makes Creo Illustrate so powerful is you're taking already existing CAD data, and then you're applying a line style to it in order to get it to look like an illustration or a drawing, and then you publish those out as image files, and then you implement those image files into your document. You can use basically any some popular ones I've seen out there are Adobe products, including Acrobat or Adobe Illustrate, to create the entire document page. So you're taking what you're publishing out from here and implementing it into that. So I'm going to show you some published images that I got from this scene just to start out with. And I published out vector graphic images. That means these can be scaled up to a higher quality and it won't pixelate or distort. These vector graphics and the ability to publish those out are exclusive to Creo Illustrate Professional. But you can also output other image types like PNG is another common file type. So I just want to show you some of these images that I'm scrolling through right now that are vector graphics and have a really crisp and clean look to them based off what I set up in this Illustrate scene. So you can see, this is what it looks like when I had set it up. And now this is the final image. And I could like zoom in on this and you can already see that like it's still maintaining its quality. Something else I also wanted to show was an example of a page here that I put together. So there's that image with these item balloons pointing out so it's building an item list here of the subassembly of the real drive shaft. And you're even able to get out item lists from Creo Illustrate and implement that into your document as well. So I'll touch on that a little later. Another component you can do is create animated step sequence for those that you can also have a video that might play on a tablet or a phone or this video could be shared across your company to have moving work instructions basically. And you can make these movements all within Creo Illustrated. Well, you could move these components, return them to their SBOM locations, write out some steps to tell them to tell whoever's following these instructions how it goes, and basically, have these steps up in the corner here. So that's everything. So I just wanted to touch on all that as an overview. So with that, I'm actually going to start a new Illustrate file here to kind of show you guys, how this process goes. So the big thing is importing CAD data. That's the first thing I want to touch on. Is you don't necessarily have to have Creo Parametric to be able to work with CAD data. There is in Creo Illustrate Professional, you can also bring in other CAD data types. So if there's any type of parts that you want to bring in that are other than Creo-based extensions, you can have IGS or step files or even STL files brought into Creo Parametric. So you can see right here, I would be able to bring in any of these IGS files based on the assembly. But for now, we're just going to work with a PVZ file that is a native Creo file format of that assembly you saw earlier. So it's real easy, and I always choose to import it and choose the link option when you're using a PVZ file. The reason for this is because, there we go. The reason for this is because it maintains a link back to the original CAD data. So if you were to take this back into Creo Parametric and make a change, it would then be able to update in all the illustrations you've created in this Illustrate scene. So the importance, but the flexibility with Creo Illustrate Professional to handle other file types is pretty good, especially when you might be getting some of your parts from other vendors and you're trying to incorporate that in here as well. So once I have the CAD assembly in here, it's easy to start manipulating and going and creating your views. So under this Figures tab is where you'll start to set up your different pages or illustrations and layouts for everything like that. By default, it brings it as this shaded view, but we could easily change it to hidden line, which gives it your black and white lines, which is pretty typical in work instruction documents. Or the one I was preferring to use was this flat shaded rendering to at least give it some color so it stands out a little bit more and you're able to easily distinguish the components and the parts within this assembly a little bit easier. So it's from here you just start setting your views. I like to have a standard view like this at the top. I'm gonna just simply rename that and view assembly. And then once I have this positioned to where I want, I could easily just go to figure view, hit use current, and then it'll update this little thumbnail to the left here. So even if I were to move this out of place, you could see it's maintaining that thumbnail. And then if I wanted to place it back, instead I would just hit go to figure view. So then it goes back to that last saved position. From there, you could either duplicate the thumbnail and then make a new position or a new image, or you can just simply right click and hit new figure, and then it'll go back to that screen where I was bringing in the PVZ to begin with. So you could set it to any of the orientations if you need to that you typically see in your parametric file, so or your other scenes. So if I wanted a bottom view, there would be that. I could also get a side view and a top view as well. And then just keep going down the line. And now you're easily building up your figures here that are going to be published out for, these will end up being your actual images. So you're building this list of images. I'm gonna switch over to this SBOM tab, and then you can also see everything within this assembly here as well. You can see all your parts and components, and you could select and turn them off. That's not how I go about selecting them. You can easily select parts right within the graphics window. So I'm gonna put this on one of the side views, maybe get it to this position, and then rename it. Update the view, and now we're done. So, and what's nice about this is that the typical workflow tends to be you set up your views, you set up, once you have your view set up, then you can start going back and adding your annotations, or you can start eventually exploding it, So that's what I'll start doing next. So one popular aspect I've seen in a lot of users is they'll have an area of small detail that they like to call out with the inset and add maybe a couple notes. So there's different styles of insets here. I'm going to just go with this first one, kind of point to this area and just kind of drag it out. And I can manipulate the size of the window here, drag it out here. I could also change where I want that to be. So I got some call out here, and it's blowing up on this detail. I could add a free note and a couple leader notes. So just by choosing note as a call out, I'll get into a couple other of these call outs a little bit later. But a free note is just adding this, telling it, type your note, say detail for latch. I could also customize how I want these to look. I could change the shape, the size of the font, the fill color for that so it stands out on the page in the final illustration. Could change my border line weight. This is just a free note, so I'm not gonna. There's no leader, so I'm just gonna leave this on here, and then I could just drag this freely to wherever I want to go. What you saw earlier, you can move this to any position. You got a 360 view, and anywhere you place it is your preference and how you want the illustration to be laid out. And once you're happy with it, again, just go to figure view, use current view. It'll update in a thumbnail. Let's add a couple leader notes here as well. I'm just gonna put one here, and I'll say, it could be whatever for assembly instructions. Move, latch, do snap. And I'll say move that up a little bit, move up my border weight some, and I like to have that fill background to be yellow so it stands out on the page. Now, what's also cool is you can change the leader as well. You could change to what kind of tip you want. You could change the thickness of the line and even the color so that stands out. And then I'll bump this weight up. You got this here, and now you're already easily creating these graphics within minutes. So now let's say I'm gonna get another one here, and now let's say I want to start exploding this top sub assembly up here. This is this real drive shaft area. It's got a sensor. It's got 8 screws, some washers. So that's pretty easy to start doing, and you can control select multiple items to move them at the same distance, and then just go to this transform tool, and you just start dragging it out. It gives you these measurements because so you can equally expand them the other side to say the same length. So if I wanted the bolts on this side to explode out, I'll do that as well. And you can see it's got the number value down there. And I'm holding control to get this like ruler to show up. Same things with this. So you could just easily start taking all these components and just start dragging them out to get your exploded view. And I'll do these ones right here. Let's say I get this, there's 2 more screws right here. Drag these up. There's like this plate or this bracket right here. And then there's also this locking nut. Get that out of there. Pull out this, there's a bottom one here too. And then I'll lift this plate. You can see, and then I could, if it's not far enough, I could just go back and continue to move them like this. I'm going to move this bearing out here, and then I'll move this shaft up. here. And then we had some right here to move these up and out. So I'm easily just exploding this. I prefer to manually explode the assemblies. You have a lot more control. There is something called Smart Explode. I won't get into that, but it takes some initial setup in order to. It's based on coordinate systems and global settings. So this is just a lot easier to pull these components apart. I want to point this out real quick too. I don't like how dark this part is. It's kind of hard to see. It kind of gets lost. I could easily just change its color, edit figure color. I'll make it a lighter gray. And now from here, I could start easily adding explode lines. And I'm going to do these 4 screws right here. You can go in here and edit the explode line as well. There's a lot of control over how you want that to look. So I'm going to say I want the weight to be a little bit thinner. I'm going to say, there we go. I could change the style to like a dash dot dash line. I'll change the color so it stands out a little bit more. And now you can see the difference here. This one, you can see I'm changing the weight of the halo right here. And I don't have to have a halo, but most illustrations do, so it where it's following the line at. Change this. And now we have these lines here. And then I would go along and finish the rest of these explode lines and sort of customize them. And then, all right, happy with this view. I'm going to go to figure, use current view, and now it's saved here. And then I'll rename it to shaft exploded. Now, another thing I'd like to do with this same view, I'm going to duplicate this one instead, and I'm going to take out these explode lines now in this copy. And let's say instead I want that I want this image. I want these balloons. Well, how do we get that? So right here in callouts, it's just item number, and I can choose to manipulate this in its settings. So if I want the font size to be a little bigger, I want that fill color to be yellow again. Change the border weight. Hit apply. And now when I choose that it's gonna show that on the image. I might actually want to change the thickness of the line as well. So that way I don't have to do it for each individual one. It's just the look of every time I pull and drag from a part. So the leader I want to be thick. I choose the call out again, and I start dragging these components here. It's just like this. I start getting these balloons. What's real cool is if I go in my options, a lot of these components might, if they were made in Creo, they'll have parameters set up, and one of the parameters is a description. So to add that, I'll go to this item list option in here, and right now these are the item list options that are in there. But I can choose to add a Pro E parameter is what the description is. It is hiding somewhere. There it is. And I can add it to this list. Hit apply. So you see I got these 4 items with balloons on them. I could choose this out here, and if I go to item list, these, you can see the description is here, and then these have this is what your item list would look like when it publishes out, because you can actually publish this out as an item list. Let me go back here and double check this. It was Could have been that one. Let's say we'll do it on, there we go. So if I wanted to re-add those, actually, I'm going to show you guys here in a second. The exported item list. And so yeah, all I'm doing is just dragging on these parts here and like drag outward, and then I could position them to however I see fit. So some of these don't have a description on them, but some of them do. So it depends if the parameter was added in Creo. So you could see this screw right here that was added in Creo. So if I have this and I go to back to this item list, and I could choose to export that as a CSV. And then I would basically get, here it is. Here's the raw CSV. This gives you your quantity, your descriptions, the item tag. So we have all this here, and this was from a previous file I did. What's nice is I could take that into Word and place it within there and end up with this. So I basically customized the item list, and then I once I had the published image, I brought that into the Word, and then I saved that from Word as a PDF, and that's what gave me this page. So now let's say so that's how that works. You guys don't have to sit there and type an item list by hand. You can get it out of Creo Illustrate based on the BOM. So the last thing I kind of want to here, I'm going to rename this. Let's say item numbers, wheel drive shaft. I'm going to add one more thing here in the figures. I'm going to I'm going to make this an animated sequence. I showed you guys that video in the beginning. I'm going to delete these tags. Now, what I like about this is that this is already exploded, and it wants to show. I want to show it assembling. So if I go to this animation tab and say sequence, I can easily start animating these parts here. So it already has step 1, and I'm going to say description, secure proximity sensor. So once I have that, then I'm going to go back to my keyframe editor, and this is the proximity sensor right here. You saw that like red flash, so you can animate effects in here. So there's things like fly in, fly out, pulse, fade. Even with screws, you can do screw or unscrew. With this, I just want to flash it a couple times. So it tells me what color do you want it and how many times I'm going to flash it. I'll tell it 3, and now it gives me it automatically puts those keyframes. So then the next step would be for it. Now, instead of using the transform tool and guessing where it goes to move it, which I could do, instead, I really like this feature in Creo Illustrate. I'm just going to go to restore location, restore selected to SBOM location. And now it'll place it exactly back where it's supposed to go in the SBOM. So it flashes and then it moves into place like that. And then let's say I'm going to back up the timeline just a little bit. I want these 2 locking nuts to go into place too. So I'll do the same thing with those. I'll back up my timeline a little bit, and then I'll select the other one to go into place. And then I'll also back up and go to this bracket right here. And let me zoom in on this so you can see it a little better. So flashes, comes in, and then that. So you can easily set up these animations. And then, I could choose to use current figure so it's a little closer when the animation starts. And then so forth. I would continue to assemble this and do that. One cool thing is if you have so there's a lot of companies moving towards uh, virtual or AR integration, and um, you can use Vuforia. You can use this in a Vuforia Studio setup. So I kind of already did the legwork here for the sake of time, but and this is a fully animated where it has all the steps. But basically, I took a PVZ file out of Illustrate. I brought it into Vuforia Studio here and set it up, and now I have the ability to once I publish this out, this can actually be viewed inside of a real space. You can see your 3D model inside of a real space. So let's just say the background is a shop floor or a lab floor. And now I'm viewing it on a tablet. I could hit these steps and I'm playing one step at a time here, and you can see it start to assemble. So there were a total of 3 steps. So ideally, once you're done bringing this into Vuforia, you could publish this out, and then it could be viewed in the Vuforia app in a real space. So that's something you can do with that as well. One other thing I wanted to touch on, if you guys have a Windchill PLM system, once you're done, say you're done with all these instructions, you guys have all your figures and you're ready to go. You could save this into a Windchill workspace, and then what this does is it actually creates a viewable, which I have here in our Windchill, and then I'm able to open it in Creo View. This is a pretty big advantage when it comes to the end user or the end worker that needs to see these instructions. And if you guys are sort of integrating digitally, this is perfect because then they could open this exact thing in Creo View. So I have it actually open here. These are different. There we go. So you can see I have all my different views. I kind of already set this up. Here's from what I had before. So this is Creo View. This is Creo View Lite, which you at least need Creo View Lite to have Windchill interaction. But you have it even has the video I did, so I could play these by steps and so now like I said, a floor worker could see these instructions digitally through Creo View Lite, and they're able to pull that in from Windchill from the illustrator that saved it and checked it into Windchill as well. So this is pretty useful when it comes to file sharing and when it comes to a seamless integration. And I'm going through my different views here that I was already starting to set up. So another way, so that's one way to publish out your instructions through a PVZ file in Windchill as a way to share. But what about as far as the document is concerned? So once I have all my figures here, what else can I do to get them the illustrations actually out to build the document? So once you're finished, there's something in here I call batch publishing, not to be confused with batch process. I just call it batch publishing. These scenes could have several figures. It could have a lot more than just the few I have here. I'm just going to rename this. So what's cool is that I don't have to publish these out one at a time. I could set Illustrate up to publish these out all by one click. So if I go to these publish settings, you can see by default, Illustrate has these Creo 3D check marks. That means that these are going to put out a PVZ file for each one of these views. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for. So I could actually just remove that, but then I'm going to hit add here, and I'm going to say I want these to be my vectors, and I'm going to say SVG. I like to make sure some of these are checked. So include shaded image to be sure you get your color. Preserve visible callouts. And I'll also hit crop to window. So these things will, and then I could boost up the resolution actually on the shaded image. So I have vector set up. Let's say I want to also do PNG. So I'll do this, and I'll go back to image. I'll go to this image option. I'll go to PNG right here. And there is a new functionality. It's real simple, but it's something that should have been in previous versions of Illustrate. Is whichever one of you guys, whoever works with um, images with transparent backgrounds, new to Creo Illustrate 10.1, you now can check transparent background. And now when you open that image in Illustrator, you you won't have you won't have a background. You'll be able to place it among anything. So that's really helpful. You could boost up the resolution of the PNGs to get a higher quality. You could even say, um, so you got this resolution right there because now it's pixel based, it's not vector based. So I hit OK, hit apply. Didn't add my vector for some reason. But you're basically building this list of things you want published out all at once. Um, so now, so PNG vector, and what about that movie? We want it as an MP4. So this is sequenced steps. And here we can change, we could change the quality and the resolution and all that as well. I'm going to boost it up a little bit bigger. And then it just saves as an MP4, which is a common file type for a movie. So I'll hit OK there. And now you see I got this publishing list built up. I'm going to hit apply. And now here I got these columns and these rows. All right, so which one of these do I want output as PNG and vector? And then obviously for the video, that's just going to be this bottom one here. And then I'm going to uncheck that on the bottom two because these are just still images. So basically I would go here, publish separate files, and choose what folder I want all these to go to. And then when it's complete, it goes to image, like I did this earlier, but you have a folder full of all the images just by hitting save, and then Creo Illustrate will automatically, it'll take a minute or two, it'll publish out those images, and now you don't have to sit there and publish out each image individually. You set this up, and then it goes from there. All right, and get out of here. Yep. So that's basically all I wanted to cover today. So uh, I will. I'm gonna pull up GoTo here to see what you guys got. There we go. All right. I was doing the wrong one. Okay. So far, I only got 2 questions. Eric, if you're still on here, can you animate assemblies? Oh, sorry. Let me get to one question before here. Can Creo Illustrate do fly-through animation? You're talking about so Sarah, I believe you're asking about if you're trying to set up a camera to where we can fly through the animation, and it would have sort of this 360 view. You'd get like a rotation almost. You could definitely animate the camera to do that. I was just animating the components, but yes, you can do a fly through. You can animate a camera within Creo Illustrate to achieve that effect. Eric, can you animate assembly steps like idling a flange? Let me see if I can pull this question up all the way. Okay, can you animate assembly steps like welding a flange to a pipe or drilling a hole in Illustrate? It's not that detailed, Eric. This is just, I mean, you can set it up if you have an assembly, if you have the flange and a pipe, and you can animate those together. You can show it merging together, but you would basically have a note within that animation saying this is welded, that, and you can have like your certain annotations that have any guidelines or specifications. Um, but that's a little more detailed when it comes like drilling a hole. You would have to point that out as a note or something. So you could get it to where you're animating those two components to where they need to go to get a general animation of it, but that gets a little more detailed. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Can you show us the Creo Illustrate Creo Illustrate integration with Windchill real quick? Yeah, let me touch back on that real quick. So if I'm in the first thing I want to do, so if you guys have Windchill, you want to go to your Creo Illustrate options and you want to go to this Windchill tab. I've already added our server, but basically you go to add, you put in the link of your server down in the URL, and then you could name it whatever you want. I just put PDS Windchill. So that's the first thing you have to do. You have to add your server, and then from there, when you can import your PVZ into here. It doesn't have to be from Windchill. It could also be locally. And once you have your scenes completed, you save your scene, but you save it into Windchill. You have to save it into a Windchill workspace. You don't save it locally. Once you save that scene into Windchill, then you also have to check it in. Those are very two important steps, because then when you go into Windchill from here, it's going to generate this viewable, and then it'll give you the ability to open it up in Illustrate or Creo View. So it does what happens on the Windchill side. Oh, and one other important thing in those options. If you guys do not have someone who is handling the server side of for publishing, you want to use client side publishing, because this will automatically generate the viewable to what it's supposed to be, so it can open in Creo View. If you guys do have someone that monitors and does all the publishing for you, you want to hit use server side publishing. In our case, I just had to choose client side, so this gives me this proper viewable. So you as the illustrator, this is out of your hands at this point. This is for the person who needs to pull these instructions down through Creo View. So, but on the Illustrate side, that's how you set that up there. All right, let me get to these other questions. From Benjamin, can the assembly steps be saved out as GIFs or video files? Yes. So you're talking about movement. Once you have all your images here, Benjamin, let me go back over that. So, you could just publish out the video if you wanted to. You don't have to go through those publish settings. So you would go to export movie, and then here is where you set up, what folder it's going to. Now, what's nice about this, I chose the sequence instead of animation. The reason I chose the sequence is because you can break it down by steps. And then in addition to that, when you're exporting the movie, you can choose, do I want all the steps as one movie, or do I want all the steps as individual videos? So I chose all steps in one video, because in that video, you see where it's distinct. It makes the distinction of step one, step two, and then whoever's watching it can pause it after the first step and then play it after they're done, and then they'll move on to step two. So this is how you would publish this out within this animation tab here. But you can also, what I was showing earlier, you can have it set up in the settings here as well. So right here, real drive shafts steps, that's my video, and I have this set up to be published out here. So you can't do GIFs, though. If you were asking specifically if you can do that, you can't do that. But I'm assuming you just wanted something that moved and show the steps, and the animated sequence video is the best way to do that. No problem, Benjamin. Let's see. Still got a handful of users in here. It's good to see all of you. Are there any more questions that anyone else has? Sarah, Eric, and a hit. I hope I was able to answer your questions if you're still on here. Awesome. No problem, a hit. Scott, does this require extra licenses or is it just to add on to our Creo? Scott, Creo Illustrate is a separate license. There you can inquire with our sales. We do have there's different levels of Creo Illustrate as well as a floating and locked option like parametric. You there's essentials, there's standard or basic, and then there's Creo Illustrate Professional. I strongly always encourage everyone for Creo Illustrate Professional because publishing out vectors are exclusive to Illustrate Professional, and so is the ability to import other CAD data. So you need Professional in order to do that. But I'm going to throw up this slide here with this email. If you want to ask more about that, here's our sales inquiry email. If you guys are looking for technical public tech pub software, they'd be happy to work with you in getting you however many seats you need of that. Let's see. Mark, how does the Creo Illustrate output feed into Windchill process plans or work instructions? So I'm not necessarily a Windchill expert. I all I know is that when you as far as the work instructions go or process plans, so when you are in Illustrate and after you've added your server to and you set it all up, when you save the scene into a Windchill workspace, and then you check it in, it will automatically generate a PVZ, and that PVZ will have all of these instructions within the file. So switching back to Creo View here, this Creo View, this PVZ file, I pulled from Windchill. This is not the Illustrate scene. I created it in Illustrate, but I pulled it in from Windchill. So that's how it manages and handles that. What's great too is because it's a PVZ file. If there's any updates to it that are made, and then it'll reflect in the Illustrate scene if you check it back out, and then you can republish the PVZ back out, and then it'll update over the previous version. So hopefully that answers your question. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I want to thank all of you so much for joining today. This is personally a pretty exciting software to me. I like working in it. I like showing it off. It's actually very intuitive to work with, which is, you guys as engineers, it's kind of a breath of fresh air to have something intuitive for once. It's very simple to work with. It doesn't have a very steep learning curve. I got one question here. To answer your question, Mohammed, process training and avoid assembly faults. Trying to answer this. I don't know, maybe if you could elaborate a little bit more, but once you have, you could make these instructions as detailed as you need them to be. What I was showing today was just very, for the sake of time, it was just very kind of like, I was able to get into some details, but some illustrations have hundreds of figures because now you can also have Illustrate. There's a lot of things like labels and things like that that you can put warnings on that'll show up in the illustration too. So for example, those free notes I was adding earlier, you can put a note, whatever it is you need to be for the to the assembler to be cautious of. So that would be my recommendation, is if you're working in Creo Illustrate to avoid assembly faults or process training, make sure those are all things that are well documented in the PDF as a whole. Not the again, this is just to put your illustrations together. It's not necessarily to build. It's not for building the entire PDF. It's just to build your graphics. But on some level, you can still make it to where it's very if you want to put certain cautions or warnings using labels or notes within your illustrations, you can do that in here. Yeah, so for assembler training, you're talking about your work instructions. That's what this is setting this up for. You're pulling apart the assembly, and then you're building the instructions for them. Um, so your figures end up being, yeah. So Vuforia, that's just to back up a little bit. Creo Illustrate, it can output your images, and you can use those images for an actual PDF document. If you're talking about Vuforia, you can have the PVZ file set up in Vuforia Studio, and then you can use those. You can use that inside of a real space. You can set, like, kind of how I had this. These have the instruction steps to view on a tablet or to view inside of a real space, but virtually. So this, is mimicking tab. You're able to see, like, if this was a real tablet and I'm hitting play, I'm able to see these instructions step by step, and then they can see how something assembles. Mohammed, I'll be able to, anyone who has any more questions or I didn't answer good enough, I will be able to have I'll have your email address after this. So Mohammed, we can I could follow up with you a little bit, and we could maybe chat after this webinar if you wanted to needed a little more clarification on that. Yes, thank you, Benjamin, for joining. I strongly, yeah, encourage you to explore Illustrate, and be sure to this webinar. You guys will have a link in about 2 or 3 days, probably on Monday, to see this. But I also encourage you to go on our PDS YouTube channel to see other webinars that have been done in Illustrate as well. So thank you for joining, Benjamin. And we had Scott. You had one more here. No. So, Scott, to answer your question, if there is a revision to the assembly, now I don't know how it works with other CAD software. I just know with Creo Parametric, if you do a change in there, all you have to do is re-export the assembly as a PVZ file and replace that with the previous version. When you do that and you import and you open Illustrate that's tied to that PVZ, it will automatically update all the images as well. Like, so if you change a dimension, if you change, yeah, usually it's a dimension or the size of a cut or something like that. Um, you do also have to go back and change it at the part level, save the part, then re-export the assembly. But after you reopen Illustrate, and that's the importance of that link option. When you go to import link, it's maintaining that link between the CAD data and the illustrations. So you do not have to redo all your images with a new revision. It will automatically update through the images. Yeah, no problem, Sarah. We'll touch base after this. The organizer has your guys' email addresses, so I always correspond with her after these things to be able to, if there wasn't something I was able to address on here. So I wouldn't mind uh, chatting with you one on one and show and helping you out with that. All right, guys, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for all the questions. That's the best way, honestly, to learn something aside from watching something like this. If you have any technical questions, my email address is right there on the screen. If you guys are really needing a new process for creating your technical illustrations, please, I implore you to reach out to sales, and they will be able to get you a quote and hook you up with and pricing and all that for seats and versions. So with that, I'm going to end it here and thank you all again so much. And please be sure to go on our website and also our YouTube page for more information and resources. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.